Welcome back to the Eric Krown crypto channel. Wishing you a happy healthy start to this nice Monday. A new week, baby. We got some new week, new opportunities. Nope, it's going to be more sideways nonsense. Although today's focus on the video is going to be, or at least one of the things that we're going to touch on, is of course when to expect the actual break, and then, what to expect essentially after that, subsequently. On top of that, I did want to remind myself to discuss that the quant program will actually be increasing in price in early November. Now, of course, whenever we're going to do something like that, it doesn't come without added benefits as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to include, of course, a Discord channel, meaning that people who are actually in the program can ask questions there and just hang out, chat, shoot the shit, whatever you want to do. And that'll start again in early November. So other than that, also more videos have been added in the past week. Couple new live trade videos have been added there, and more likely to come in the not so distant future. All right, sweet. So let's just jump right into it right now. I want to start off this analysis first and foremost with the time component of this. So when we speak about when to expect the actual break of this formation, and why I still think that short term here, at least early on in this current week that we have going on here, probably still going to be sideways within the overall range. But if we're looking for clues as to when it is most likely to break, I'd be looking at this from a formation standpoint, of which we actually had a nice discussion in the Discord channel earlier today. Let me just get rid of this because it's not relevant to the discussion. And basically on CME, what are we observing? Well, we're observing a slew of lower highs, especially over the past almost 5 to 6 months now, I think. Yeah, it's been quite some time. Been quite some time in the grips of a nice bear market. And then, of course, on the bottom side right here, we do have a nice formation in the format of a descending triangle. So I'm specifically interested in when the apex of this triangle actually comes to a close. And of course, whenever we're dealing with something like this, there's a lot of ambiguity with it the further out that we draw these sort of anchors. So I do want to address that, hey, we're talking about estimates here. We're talking about, when's likely, not necessarily like an exact date, because that's at least impossible as far as I can gather. But whenever you do have a formation like this, typically when things near the apex point, which would be right here on the 14th of November, again, we could actually adjust that if it's going to be super exact, about 11th of November, I'd say, that is when things very, 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 very likely break a little bit before that point. The statistics show that when formations are about 70 to 75% full, that is when they become extremely likely to break. And then obviously the more that it fills out on top of that, it just compounds that effect. And we are obviously very much more than 75% full on this. So I would say that coming into the back end of this current week, and especially that first week of November coming up, which I think is literally, it starts next week actually. Yeah, starts next Tuesday. That is when this will become extremely, extremely likely to break. And I would be very surprised to see this take any longer than the actual apex itself, and probably even a little bit less than that. So I would say end of first week of November, that is when we're probably looking at a high probability break. Damn it, my lights are going haywire right now, but you know what? The show must go on. And of course, when we're looking at this as a descending triangle, there is a high probability to break out to the downside than the upside. I mean, that's it. What is it essentially showing? It's essentially showing trend is what it's showing, which is why I actually like these formations. In general, I'm not a big fan of patterns. I just don't think that they have high enough hit rates to really care all that much about. But in general, for Bitcoin, ascending and descending triangles, which again, just represent plain old trend, actually do have pretty good hit rates in the upper 60%. Anyways, let's now get into the lower term timeframes, because that's where all the action's been going on recently. And so the lower term timeframe ranges are basically the same as they've been before, actually. We did have a very short term pivot, very, 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 very short term pivot on the hourly at 19,400, meaning that a Bitcoin were to close above there, very likely a test to the top side of the range, which was 19,750 to 19,800. Looks like we got pretty damn close there. CME wicked up just under 19.7. But in this case, I do look at that as an official test to the top side of the overall range, and a rejection at the tops of the range as well, in the format, again, of lower highs. So that, again, does have a natural bearish twist on top of it. And that does mean that the medium-term timeframe range highs are still the same at 19,750 or 800, depending upon which exchange that you're on. As long as Bitcoin's below there, lower highs still exist. And if there is any sort of a closure above there on a medium-term timeframe, that's at the point where I'd be looking for a medium-term timeframe breakout to the upside, with continuation likely implied somewhere around the early October highs, which is 20,500, with potential for more, of course. To the downside, it's a lot more dire and a lot more consequential as we are dealing with a macro level, meaning that anywhere below the bottom side of this overall formation on a higher term time frame closing basis, that being a daily below about 18,100, I would even say that you can move that level up to 18,350 on a daily. And then yes, I would mark this as resolve to the downside, and resolve to the downside does imply significant price action to follow, probably down somewhere between $15,000 to $16,000 minimum at least. We'll go over sort of areas of interest a little bit later in this video, but for right now, still focus on the lower term timeframes. A few things of interest here. Again, all lower term timeframes, basically all timeframes volatility indicators are at extreme lows. Here's the 4-hour time frame. Again, kind of expanding off extreme lows right now, but again, still within the extreme context of that. 6-hour time frame, same thing. 12-hour time frame, daily, 2-day, 5-day, weekly are all, at historic lows right here. So we are very likely looking at a humongous mega move. All of the YouTube fucking clickbait that you could think of very likely does apply here, but I do suspect that it's going to take a little bit more patience. This is very reminiscent, and I imagine that a lot of the community, or at least I should ask what the community would think about this, but I would say that this is very reminiscent of late 2018 and then also the first quarter of 2019, both humongous downside and then upside moves, which is what I do think that we're dealing with. I do think that we're dealing with, 40% to 50% moves here, most likely overall. In this case, on the 6-hour time frame with BBWP on the floor, we do see that 6-hour RSI does have potential for hidden bearish divergence. Obviously, it's not confirmed just yet. What would confirm it? Bitcoin would need to close below this nice little gap that we see on CME, which is like 19,000 to basically right below 19,200 on a closing basis, then yes, that would be resolved. Very likely comes back down, just below 19, which is gonna imply that same sort of range that we've been seeing for the past month and a half now. On top of that, if we go and reference stochastic momentum, I'm curious where the current pivots are. And if we start off with the 12-hour time frame, 12-hour time frame will actually be turning down if Bitcoin closes this next 12-hour time frame below 19,400, currently trading about $70 below that pivot. 6-hour time frame is going to actually be up as long as Bitcoin's above 18,800. So bit of disagreement there. 4-hour time frame is going to be also up as long as Bitcoin's above 19,130. 3-hour time frame is going to be no, it's actually be up as well as long as Bitcoin's above 19,265, and the hourly is going to be down, I believe, if it can actually load. It always has issues loading. Yeah, it will be down as long as Bitcoin is below 19,550. So you can see where all these pivots align with. What does it likely mean? It likely means more sideways. I don't think that we're breaking medium-term time frame ranges today, for example. Probably going to operate within that. And if I did have to call it right now, like very short term, like let's go down to a 15-minute. Probably like a little bit of a bounce right here, probably rejects, comes back down. We do the same thing as before. I know it's not, I know it doesn't make for like a sexy YouTube title, but I do think that that's the most likely thing to happen right here. Maybe something like that. Anyways, now that we get into the end of this analysis, we're 8.5 minutes in, you know where I'm going with it. You always know where I'm going with it. It's the daily CME. It's just the one chart that continues to provide a guide as to the major pivots and the likelihood of an actual confirmed breakout or breakdown. And this is the volatility versus stochastic momentum chart. Volatility represented by BBWP right here. Anytime that we've seen it get to extreme lows, which are defined as anything below 10 percentile or more for the full history of CME, of which we've had several iterations for this, the expansion phase that naturally follows after the extreme lows on volatility has led to an average move of 24.25% over the course of an average of 2.5 weeks or so. And the stochastic also have been correct in getting the volatility expansion direction 83.33% of the time. So when do we officially have this signal confirmed? Well, we need two things. The daily BBWP needs to have a positive slope and above the moving average, which it obviously does not have right now. And then also needs to get back above that critical zone, which is 10 percentile here. If it can do those two things, the signal is confirmed. Then we go and reference the direction on the daily stochastic oscillator, and that is what gives the high probability direction of the next move. In this case, the daily stochastic will actually turn down if today closes below 19,368 on CME again, which is currently trading about $30 below, which is absolutely nothing, but that's like kind of a big move on the hourly nowadays, an hourly move of 30 fucking bucks. But in this case, yeah, you can see that pressure would once again turn on to the downside, but it means nothing without the volatility component confirming first and foremost. So it's like, oh, this side's in trouble again, but we don't have the most important piece in there, but can be a little bit of fun, and especially with that quick move up in the early morning hours, which honestly, I mean, when you have futures kind of open up like that, I'm speaking about stocks right now, and then quickly get rejected. I mean, those are typically fake moves, and I did see like a lot of people kind of get drawn into that, which was interesting. People who you typically know, I do think know better, but anyways, whatever. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. As long as it continues to respect this, I do have to remain bearish simply because of one, trend, and then two, the probabilities presented over here are probably going to start to favor the downside again, with extreme caution that until this signal over here is confirmed, it's fucking meaningless. So we're about 11 minutes into this video right now. Yesterday's video was a little bit of hopium. So if you need a little bit of hopium to wash this out of your mouth, check that out, because that'll be a little more relevant for such things. But I think this is a good place to leave off on this one. More or less a continuation of the same analysis that we've been having for quite some time here. But that is all that it is as far as I can see. Anyways, I want to take a second to wish you the best as always. Take care, much love, and should probably have mentioned that Bybit still has their promotion going on. It's actually a pretty fucking good promotion with 0% on maker fees for both spot and derivatives orders, with the link in the description below. So yeah, that's a good place to leave it off. Take care, much love. See you next time.